better than ever. And I know right now that I'm going somewhere, and I need some cheddar. Oh, baby, better not go.
After credit being controlled, then I have a very similar process that I follow on each of my discovery meetings. I'm going to start with role and fit. So what's the role of the person? What are their top, 1 to 2 responsibilities? I'm very specific on like honing that down to like 1 or 2 to 3 responsibilities, instead of if you ask someone like, hey, what are your responsibilities in your role? They may get to like the top ones, but they could list a whole bunch of stuff because we all have 20, 30 different responsibilities. But like, what are the top 1 to 2? Because then I'll know, all right, am I working with the right person, or did I just get the person that typically, passes out or handles or coordinates the tickets? I want to get to the person that decides that tickets is a part of a bigger business initiative that they're looking to achieve. Again, that could be differentiating, like I talked about earlier. It could be new client acquisition, retaining customers, whatever that is. So I want to understand who it is that I'm talking to, who it is that I'm working with, who else typically gets involved in these initiatives, not who else gets involved in ticket purchases, but who else gets involved in these types of initiatives. So I want to understand that. And then going into um, current plans and ideal state. So what's working for them today? What are challenges that they're facing today? Where is it ideally they're looking to go in the next 12 to 18 months, where they want to be as an organization or a company? And so where we come in and where we should look to position ourselves is there is a place they're at today. There's a place they're looking to get to in the future, and we fill that gap. Like that's where we live as salespeople, is in the gaps. There's a really good book called Gap Selling by Keenan. I definitely recommend you checking it out or listening to that, and talk about how we fill that void in the gaps, and that's where we're going to unlock budget. That's where deals move forward. If we're just pitching products, features, benefits, like this would be really cool, other companies are doing it, you should do it. You may get some people that can connect the dots on their own, but it's on us as skilled business consultants, strategic advisors, to understand that today your challenge is acquiring new customers. And by this time next year, you want to grow your new customer base by 20%. And here are the things that you have in place. Here are some of the roadmaps or road marks you have in place, milestones you're looking to achieve, um, challenges you expect to meet along the way. And we want to build a plan that's going to help them achieve that. And so we're going to tie that in as like a key objective we're going to bring into the proposal stage later. But that's one thing we're going to talk about, is helping get them to where it is they're looking to go. So those are a couple of questions I asked. Then I'll kind of start to transition to the end of the meeting, where I'm going to set up next steps and make sure we're on the same page. But I'm going to start with number 4, which is worldview alignment. And so what that is, that's kind of our stance or my stance as a salesperson, and what I see happening in the industry, in the market, and trying to shift their perspective to either make see where they're at and that they align with us, or if not, again, start to shift their perspectives to see what we see. And so this is really why our customers choose us. That kind of challenges the status quo, or challenges them doing nothing, because most deals they end up in no decision. And so I want to get out in front of some of those objections that we typically hear. We work with other teams, we do this, we do dinners, golf, blah blah blah, and get out in front of it. So let's say I work for a professional baseball team. That was most of my career, so I had experience there. I'm going to talk about why our customers use us. And so here's what we're seeing in the market. And this is actually a really good one for a lot of sellers to use here in 2026, is, a lot of our customers are telling, and prospects are telling us that with, virtual communication, with AI out there, they're losing that human to human interaction and that personal touch. And why they choose us, and why they like using suites, using our products here at XYZ team, it gives them 3 hours of face-to-face time in a relaxed environment to really develop that relationship. Remember, I had a client when I worked for the Marlins. He said, I'm never going to give up my baseball tickets, because I learned more in 2.5, 3 hours about a prospect or a client that in these 3 hours than I have in the past 10 years working with them. And I'm sure they did lunches and dinners and happy hours and saw each other at different places and had meetings and things like that. So like those would be the type of stories that I tell to get out in front. And here's our worldview of what we see in the industry and where we see the market heading. And then I'm going to kick it back to them. Are you seeing the same thing? Is that what you see? Do you agree with that? And just kind of see where their perspective and start to pull out some of their objections so I could address them now instead of hearing this, at the end of the process later, like, oh, we decided not to because of XYZ, but I could have addressed it here in discovery. And so spend some time talking about that and really just, starting to plant the seed of like, here's my chance in an organic way to start to tell our narrative and start to sell our product and subtly throw in why other people choose us and what we're seeing out in the marketplace and hearing from customers that are happy with us to get them to start to see from our point of view and our perspective. Then I'll get into matching, which is, based on everything you're telling me, here's what I think is going to make the most sense. Not product necessarily. I'm going to tease it. I'm going to give them a range, but more like the use case. Here's how I see for new talent acquisition, you could potentially use us, or to grow your new client base, new customer base, and acquire new customers to achieve that goal we want to be in 12 to 18 months. Here's how I see you using us. Are we on the same page? Are we in the same ballpark, in the same range? Just make sure, because if not, let's talk about it there. Because they could be like, oh, actually, we might see it like this. Or they may tell me like, this isn't a top priority for us, and we can figure out where to go from there. But I'm really just trying to match and make sure that we're on the same page of like how we see things in the industry. And then also how we plan to use this as we talk about next steps and moving forward. And then we'll move to, for me, process agreement. So I like to leave at least 5 to 6 minutes at the end to start this process, because let's say that it's a 30-minute meeting and I spent all this time talking and blabbering, they took me down a tangent, and then it's 29 after the hour and they got to leave, or they have a hard stop at 30 minutes and they're like, all right, this sounds great, I got to jump, send over some information. That's where I know like the deal is I have some work to do if they tell me that. So I want to get out in front of and be the one who's project managing and quarterbacking, so there isn't this awkward like, right, where do we go from here? How about you, talk about it and get back to me. I know how deals get done, and I know the next steps that need to take because I do this every day. So I'm going to be the one to lead and be like, hey, great conversation today. Here's a couple of things I heard that really stood out. What I'm going to do from here is, digest some of this, and I'm going to put together an initial outline of what I think a partnership or a program of working with us would look like. And then you said that Susan typically gets involved in this too. Typically, we'd bring her to the next meeting. So there's words I use like typically, normally, usually, just to make it seem like this is where, we always go and like it's just natural. So typically, we'll bring Shirley in and we'll get her reactions to that plan. And then based on that, I'll put together a final proposal that we can review together that you could take to go get approval. So I'm setting and buying my second meeting for this initial outline. I'm inviting them to collaborate with me, so I don't have to nail it and like have this this back and forth or this kind of like me versus them confrontation. Like now we're working together and I'm inviting them. It gives me a chance to really, again, not have to nail it on this first call, but like just get the information, take some time, put together a good plan based on what they told me and based on what's going on in their business, and show them I really listened to them and not just pitch something to them. And then I'm buying my third meeting because I said after that meeting, I'm going to take your information, take your feedback, make a couple tweaks to the plan, and then walk through a final proposal. So I'm already setting this up. And if they seem a little hesitant, a little reluctant, I'm kind of getting my feel on like what they really feel about this. Or if they are on board, they just don't know the next steps to take, because their job isn't to sell my tickets internally to the organization. Their job is to do their job. So I need to be the one. I need to go above and beyond. Like the bar is really low for salespeople out there because they kind of let the customer dictate. And like if you can be on top of it and guide the process and bring in the appropriate stakeholders and everything like that, you're going to win a ton more deals than the people out there that are more reactive and everything like that. So I typically expect 2 to 3, if not more, meetings within my process before I get to a final close. And so that's the discovery process. And another session or another episode, I could talk through, all right, what does it look like after this first meeting? And like, I talk about that initial outline and then that proposal meeting and like, how do we keep the momentum going in the deal? Because they're going to have objections. They're going to have to reschedule meetings, and you start to lose some momentum from that initial excitement that you had on the first meeting. But what I would encourage sports sellers to do is like, we've been so conditioned to get them to the ballpark, get them to the arena, get them down here. Like in a business setting, like it's not as important. I don't have a black and white rule, but I guess like if someone asks like when would I bring someone down, that for me it would be once I have, obviously the person I'm meeting with, I'm meeting with the right person, but do I have commitment or at least a buy-in or interest from the other stakeholders that would get involved with this to at least progress the conversation forward? Because then it makes sense to bring them down because now there's at least investment, there's at least buy-in to this to talk and discuss this further. Not going to close every deal. The best salespeople close, interested prospects at a 25% clip. So I know that out of all the interested prospects, one out of every four probably going to convert. So just trying to get as many quality people to that stage within the process. And so what I encourage is not get so focused on, all right, meeting one, I do virtual, meeting two, I do out at their office, meeting three, I bring them down to the arena or ballpark. It's like however many meetings it takes, do I have enough information to build a business case that's going to stand up when a CEO or a CFO challenges why are we doing this and how is this going to help grow our business? That's after one meeting, typically not likely, but if you can get all that in one meeting, great. Usually it's going to take 2 to 3, maybe 4 meetings. And I think that's the biggest hurdle, biggest mindset shift that I see younger reps, but just sports reps in general, because we've been so conditioned to like push tickets, features, benefits, pricing. But from a B2B perspective, it's more about what are the priorities going on in their business, what's specific to their role, and like what can we unlock from a budget standpoint for that person, and how do I build a business case that they can get behind and helps them achieve those metrics, those KPIs that are coming from their executives that they focus and they look on every single day, and how can I build a plan to help them achieve their specific goal. That's where I'm going to get commitment, and they're going to push that further. I'm going to get more budget unlocked versus just pitching tickets and product and everything like that. So I'm going to stop sharing here, but that's my discovery process. And so anytime I look at a deal that maybe lost, or um, as I look back on deals even I won, I can always bring it back to discovery. And as I assess, like, oh, there's something that I didn't ask or I didn't learn or I missed in discovery as to why I didn't set up the best next step moving forward, or why the deal eventually didn't go through. So that's why for me, we've kind of, put so much emphasis, and this could be like from TV, movies, like entertainment of like salespeople and like closing, like what's your closing line, and the whole like sell me this pin, like those are all like things that like are exciting, I guess, about sales and like really popularized within sales. But once you get to the close, you've already kind of done a lot of the selling. It's what you've done throughout the process and the steps in the process and your follow-ups after meetings and how you prepare for meetings, and especially discovery, that really is what's setting the stage for you to make the deal. It's not how you ask that closing question. Obviously, you have to ask for the sale, but we put so much focus on like the close. The close is happening all throughout the process, from your first call to discovery to your follow-up. So not put so much emphasis on that piece, but like make sure you nail discovery so you can best navigate and chart the next steps within your sales process. So all right, so every episode I talk about things that stood out. So if you had asked me 2 years ago when I got into this about the role of an inside sales manager, and I might have wrote about this on LinkedIn or even shared this on some of the different videos I did here on YouTube, I would have said the inside sales manager role, is probably going to start to phase out because AI is coming in. Sales teams are starting to get smaller, and maybe that's the case. But I've just noticed there's a lot more inside sales manager roles that are coming up, which is exciting for me. I mean, that was my favorite job. I was a little concerned and worried for, senior sellers who are looking to step into that role. But it's good to see that there's still a lot of inside sales manager roles out there. Maybe the teams have shrunk a little bit. I would encourage that, if you're looking to get into this role, don't do it because like I don't want to sell anymore and I just want to manage. Like an inside sales manager, in my view, should be actively selling to and involved and engaged in the sales process. But it's really cool to see that, that role is still in popular demand. There's still roles that are coming up so people can take that step, because that's where I really cut my teeth on leadership management and grow myself personally on just like it actually helped me be a better father because I was managing these people very young and like developing them as people that when I had kids like I've been doing this for years. So so great to see that. And then each episode I do a shout out. And so I was working with the Memphis Grizzlies. So one of our clients, we did a couple days on site back in March, and we do monthly follow ups with them. And so they just hired a new inside sales class. And so I was meeting with that group, and they were going through. I asked them to share, where they're from, what college they went to, and why they joined the program. And so one was from Arizona State, which I was like, oh, that's awesome. There's a Sun Devil. And then there were two Arizona Wildcats, which I'm about 20 years removed from college, so I don't have to dislike U of A as much as I did as a student and coming up. But I just thought it was really cool for both ASU and U of A, like, and just Arizona in general, just being from there, that these sports business, sports management programs are producing good talent, where three of them landed at, the Memphis Grizzlies as, their landing spot for inside sales. And I'm sure there's a ton more. So I know there's a bunch of great sports management, great sport business programs out there, but just, my affinity to Arizona and Arizona State specifically, I thought that was really cool. So I want to give a shout out to those programs for producing good talent that is obviously getting them careers full time within the sports industry and getting them with good programs they're going to take off in their career. So it was really cool to see. So in closing, don't use B2C like closing tactics of like trying to push and force the sale. Make sure that you understand the lay of the land from discovery. It doesn't have to be a full 30-minute, hour-long meeting. It could be a 15, 20-minute quick, all right, then I set up the next step. And more meetings actually speed up deals, which seems counterintuitive, but that's one thing I've learned through this process as well. But really the goal is to get enough information where you could build a business case that's defensible across the organization that aligns to the business priorities. So put yourself in the prospect's shoes and really put some time and energy into the right people you're targeting, and then setting up that discovery meeting and how you execute that. But if you found this valuable, obviously like it so it goes out to more people out there on YouTube. Share with someone in your network that you think would get a ton of value out of this. Subscribe so you get updated each week with new episodes of the Sports Sales Show. And actually, school starts again this week. So like I tell my daughters every morning when I drop them off for school, go be awesome today, and I'll be back next week with another video.
That's nothing. I'ma be doing this and I'm gonna be head hunting. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go.